Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are discussing yet again another new ship that hath been dumped upon us in this update. You see, Wargaming usually in each update might dump 1, 2, maybe 3 premium ships upon us, but this update they've dumped what, 6, 7 new, or at least mostly new premium ships upon the player base. I mean, in the dockyard we have the Njord and the Kalmar. That's 2 right there, and then in the Steel Will event we have the Shinano, the Archerfish, the Chikuma 2. And the subject of today's video, the Georg Hoffman, the new Tier 10 Premium German destroyer that seems to be getting a very mixed reception from the player base. I've had some players send me some absolutely amazing replays of the Hoffman, and I've seen posts where players are, saying, well, the Hoffman's kind of just completely pointless and it's just a copy-paste Elbing. Well, which one of those statements are closer to the truth? Well, we're going to take a look at the Hoffman today and discuss her in detail and, try to help you make up your mind if whether or not this is something you want to potentially dump 36,000 or 30,000 steel on. So let's go ahead and take a peek at the Hoffman. I can totally see right away why so many players say this is just a copy-paste Elbing, because, well, a lot of it, yeah, it is an Elbing in many aspects. It's got the same hull. It's got the same guns. It's an Elbing, right? It's got torpedoes. It's got the smoke screen. It's got that German AP with the hyper accuracy that we get from the Elbing line. So yeah, it should just be an Elbing, right? Well, I mean, if you look at it on the surface level and with like one eye shut, yeah, I can see why you might say, oh, it's just a copy-paste Elbing. But it's a little bit more than an Elbing that's had a couple of numbers changed here and there. I mean, yeah, a lot of it is that, but there are some genuine differences between this ship and the Elbing that definitely make her a slightly different playstyle than the Elbing, and one that might actually be better for your average destroyer player. So let's take a look at her, starting off with her HP. The Elbing is famous for having an absurd amount of HP for a destroyer, right? The thing has 30,000 base XP. And of course, if you slot the new flag on her, she'll have like what, 35,000 HP on her, something like that, some ridiculous number. The Hoffman starts at, well, a very lowly 24,500 base XP. And if you slap the new flag on her, you'll be pushing around 29,000 HP and change. And of course, depending upon your commander build and what mode you're in, that can go up or down. But it's still a fairly healthy destroyer, but just not like Elbing absurdity right there. Of course, right off the bat, you might be saying, well, that's what makes her a worse Elbing, right? You have less HP. Well, you do definitely trade that HP for something. So the main battery guns, one of the biggest visual changes, and, well, it's a major gameplay change too, here is that the Hoffman has a very odd turret setup. The Elbing already had a weird one. The Elbing, if you are unaware, she has 2 turrets in the rear, a la the Rune, and 1 turret in the front, which is a little odd, but something that's definitely workable, just like it is on the Rune. Especially in a destroyer where, for many a situation, you're going to kind of be kiting anyway or firing from afar. It doesn't really make too much of a difference with, instead of having 2 turrets in the front, they're in the back. Not that big of a deal. But with the Hoffman here, you'll notice that the turrets are, well, fairly equally spread out. You've got 1 in the front, 1 in the midsection, and then 1 on the stern. So that's a little odd, which of course means if you do want to make use of all 3 of your guns, all 3 of your turrets, all 6 of your guns, you are going to have to show quite a bit of side. Now, in a destroyer, doesn't really matter too much in terms of course, angling to bounce shells. I mean, against like other destroyers, okay. But against, of course, cruisers and battleships, they're going to pretty much, the shells are going to go right through you from pretty much whatever angle, right? But you still have to present a larger target to the enemy team. And of course, when you're trying to dodge HE shells, but at the same time make use of all 6 of your guns, that can be a little, well, not conducive to your long-term survival. So that's definitely something that's a pretty significant change between this ship and the Elbing. Why do they do that? I don't know. Apparently, it's one of the designs for the Elbing, right? Of course. So there you go. So that's one of the bigger visual changes. Now, speaking of those guns, she still gets the exact same AP shells that the Elbing gets. They still have their improved AP. All that magicness is still there. If you don't know, the Elbing's AP shells have absurd penetration on their shells. They have an amazing air drag coefficient and a great velocity. They fly out the tubes at 960 meters a second, and they maintain that speed thanks to the low drag coefficient, therefore maintaining their penetration capability. So at medium and long ranges, these 150 millimeter guns are packing one hell of a punch. How good of a punch? Well, you can Citadel most light cruisers, hell, most cruisers at 12, 13 kilometers with the Elbing's guns, along with anything with pretty mild armor. So like aircraft carriers, even some battle cruisers, you can get through certain sparks in their armor with your 150 millimeter guns. It is quite goofy. So that's kind of the whole thing of the Elbing line, is that they can turn the tables on light cruisers that are trying to hunt them down, because you can, with, again, the AP on this ship, Citadel those light cruisers fairly easily. So it's pretty funny, right? And pretty fun. Now, a big difference between the guns, well, there's two big differences. One, the reload time is lower. Well, I'm sorry, longer. The Hoffman has a 7.4 second base reload time, whereas the Elbing has a 7.1 second base reload time. So you're sitting on a 0.3 second longer reload, which of course is reflected when you try to, build down and, get that reload down as fast as possible. You're still going to have a longer base reload than the Elbing. Elbing doesn't really care too much because of those AP shells, right, that it has a longer reload, but now you have a already long reload, right? However, the other main difference between the Hoffman's guns and the Elbing's guns are their HE shells. The Elbing has pretty standard German HE shells. German HE, they get an improved pin ratio where they can pin more armor than your same tier caliber guns can do, but the trade-off is they have a much lower alpha rating. The Elbing, for example, her HE shells do a mere 1,800 maximum damage. Obviously with HE, that's if you Citadel the target, so you're not doing that every roll of the dice, right? So it's pretty menial damage, plus with the long reload time of the Elbing. Most Elbing players, if they can help it, they won't fire HE. They'll, throw AP into your superstructure, AP into your extremities. They'll try to pin, even if it's just overpins with the AP, it's better than using the HE on the Elbing. However, on the Hoffman, the HE is a little bit more viable, because the HE on the Hoffman has a 2200 alpha rating. So it does 400 more alpha damage than the Elbing. Now, that may not sound like a whole lot per shell, and sure it's not, but keep in mind, this is a ship that is firing 6 shells, who have an absolutely amazing accuracy, like the dispersion, the maximum dispersion on the Hoffman and on the Elbing's guns. It's 54 meters. 54 meters. That's the maximum dispersion on these guns. So that means the shells are going where you're aiming, unless you have the worst luck imaginable, right? They are going exactly where you're aiming. So when you have HE shells that have 400 more alpha damage per shell, per salvo, it does definitely start to add up. Does it make it, the world's best HE spammer? No, but the HE shells are definitely a lot more viable on the Hoffman than they are on the Elbing. And keep in mind, you still get the amazing AP shells. So you get to keep that, but you get better HE shells. And they still get the pins. You still pin 38 millimeters of armored base with the HE shells. So you can, of course, take the flags, or if you really want to, take the skill and get your 12% fire chance up that much higher. Again, keep in mind, 12% per shell with shells that are going where you're aiming. So even with a longer reload, you're going to be setting a few fires to the Hoffman, and now you're doing more damage too with the increased HE alpha damage. So that's pretty nice there. Now, her torpedoes are also slightly different. So the Hoffman has the same size of torpedoes as the Elbing. The Elbing, once again, quite famously has her sea mine torpedoes. They're called sea mines because they're so friggin' slow. You get 2 sets of 5 tubes of the 533 millimeter torpedoes. The torpedoes on the Elbing do 16,533 maximum damage. Pretty nice damage rating there. Granted, again, the torpedoes are quite slow. Their detectability is down to 1.2 kilometers, so they're actually fairly stealthy. So it's, unless they get spotted, most ships won't know they're there until it's too late, even with them chugging along at 50 knots. I've had a surprising amount of success with the Elbing torpedoes, and I'm a terrible torpedo boat captain, right? I guess just, again, so many players don't expect it. It's kind of funny. But yeah, 16,533 maximum damage there, but they have a 90-second reload time, minute and a half. The Hoffman, on the other hand, trades 2,000 damage off of her torpedoes for a 10-second quicker reload time and 16 knots. The Hoffman torpedoes are now going 66 knots, but only doing 14,400 maximum damage. Again, this is all base. Obviously, again, you can build into this and make it better. And they are a little bit more detected from 1.4 kilometers. Still a fairly low detection range as far as torpedoes go. It's only 200 more meters, so it's not a huge difference, but it definitely, gives them a little bit more reaction time. Well, actually, probably with the increased speed and the slightly increased detection range, it's probably about the same reaction time. So there you go. But the torpedoes are a little bit more comfortable to aim because they're going 66 knots instead of 50 knots. 50 knots, it's like watching paint dry by torpedoes on the torpedo speed scale, right? Imagine, you have the pan-European destroyers whose torpedoes are going almost twice as fast as the Elbing's torpedoes. So you have a little bit better torpedo power here in terms of, getting them consistently on target. Granted, you do also trade off some range. The Elbing's torpedoes have a range of 13.5 kilometers. The Hoffman's torpedoes have a range of 12 kilometers. Now, the Hoffman also gets something that I definitely wanted the Elbing to have, but for some reason they didn't give it to her. I think she actually had it at one point in testing and they removed it, and that is hydro. It just gets hydro. It gets all the same consumables that the Elbing gets, and they just slap hydro on there because German, right? So you still get the smoke screen, you still get the engine boost, you still get DFAA, and then you get hydro on top of it. So now when you are doing, Elbing things, or Hoffman things, I guess I should say, which is, sitting in your smoke and Citadel and cruisers, you can now have hydro running to hopefully prevent you from, getting murdered by enemy torpedoes, or of course with submarines being a thing in the game, you can use that to spot submarines, or if you're being really aggressive with your Hoffman, use it to hydro out other DDs in the cap. It is the German hydro, that lovely 6-kilometer hydro that runs for 120 seconds. You get 3 charges of that base. And again, it still gets 3 charges of DFAA, 3 charges of the engine boost, and 3 charges of the smoke generator. It gets all of that. Yeah, okay. So what we're seeing here is that you are essentially trading off your HP and a little bit of your, I guess it's not really trading the torpedo performance, but like trading the torpedo alpha damage for better HE, for slightly different torpedoes, and for hydroacoustic search, and a bit wonkier of a gun setup. So, why are so many players having different opinions on this ship? Well, most ships in the game, you have some players saying it's great, some players saying it's trash. The Hoffman. It is a ship that I've been getting sent some pretty solid replays out of this ship. This one from Runic, fellow T-Soft member. This is his first match in the ship, and it pretty much speaks for itself. I mean, yeah, it's arms race, but it's still a pretty solid performance for a destroyer that some are saying is completely useless. What's really funny about the Hoffman and a lot of the conversation that I'm seeing about it right now, it's kind of like what we saw with the Elbing back in the day. When the Elbing first came out, you had some players saying she was useless and pointless, and they're just looking at, her stats on paper. But when we got the Elbing in game, turns out it's a pretty solid ship, and that AP hurts, and the torpedoes hurt, and the Hoffman is like a side grade to the Elbing, essentially. Not like, in my opinion, pretty much is a side grade to the Elbing that's slightly more torpedo focused, slightly more HE focused. So it's kind of like it's a slightly more traditional destroyer in comparison to the Elbing. Would I like go in and fight DDs with this? Not necessarily. I think it can do it. The HE, again, with the improved HE damage and the fact that, again, you have a 54 meter maximum dispersion on the Hoffman's guns, that can do some damage to destroyers. I mean, with the Elbing, you can just use AP on destroyers, and if they were too goofy enough not to angle into you, I mean, you were doing terrible things to them. I mean, you could really just break their turrets with like a salvo with the Elbing's AP if your aim was good enough, and then just deny them the right to shoot you. You can still do that with the Hoffman, because again, the AP is exactly the same. But now you have the HE that's actually, again, a little bit more viable there. And of course, when it comes to, maybe farming down battleships or cruisers and they angle into you, you can't use your AP anymore. You have more viable HE. And you have more, I guess I would definitely call them more usable torpedoes. They're definitely more comfortable to launch from what I've seen. So it's a ship that, from what I've seen, is a pretty interesting little boat and is a nice side grade to the Elbing. I would definitely say, from what I've seen, that it is a better German premium ship. I don't think this is something that's like, terrible and, never worth picking up. But then we come to the question of, well, picking it up. Is it something that's worth spending 36,000 steel or 30,000 steel if you use the coupon the Still Will event? Because Wargaming has stated that this ship isn't coming back for quite some time after the Still Will event. How long? Probably like a year. Kitakami got a 2-year hiatus after her event, and she still isn't back yet. So, is it worth dropping all of your still on right now? If you love the Elbing, probably so. But if you are someone that hasn't played Elbing, or any of the Elbing line, I don't think it's a ship that's really worth going and dumping your hard-earned steel on, or gambling for in Santa containers. Because while it is a side grade to the Elbing, and it is a more, I guess you could say, standardized Elbing in terms of, being a destroyer, it still very much plays like an Elbing. It's still very much a second-line destroyer. It's not the destroyer that's going into the caps and contesting the caps and doing usual destroyer things. It's the destroyer that's behind those destroyers that are trying to murder the cruisers that are trying to murder the destroyers in the cap. Cruisers like the Kleber, the Elbing, the Cabaros, that's more of what the Hoffman is. And those destroyers are a little bit trickier to play because they don't play like traditional destroyers. So if you're a destroyer player looking to pick up your next destroyer, I don't think a Hoffman is necessarily it, and definitely not worth blowing, again, 36,000 or 30,000 steel on, not at this moment. When she comes back, whenever it is, and you can use the normal 25% off coupon and get a bigger discount on her, maybe so at that point. But definitely not worth blowing all of your steel on right now. Again, unless you're someone that loves the Elbing and you've wanted a slightly different or a side grade to the Elbing. I do think, again, it is a pretty solid premium ship. Granted, I haven't played it yet, but from what I've seen and the stats that we've gone over today, it is a ship that, yeah, I probably will eventually pick up and get to play, and we'll see how she is at that point. But just from trying to give you guys a little more information about the Hoffman, and from someone who's been getting quite a few Hoffman replays that are pretty dang good, yeah, it's a ship that I think you might be interested in, but it's one you can wait on for the year that Wargaming is going to hold this back, or the 6 months that Wargaming is going to hold this back for, after the Still Will event. Don't give in to the FOMO Elbing. It's not quite that good, but is a ship that I do think will be worth picking up one day. But today is not the day unless you are a giant Elbing fan. So that's my 2 cents on the Hoffman, fellas. Granted, again, from someone who has not played it, but has seen more than his fair share of replays of pretty good rounds in the Hoffman with, her torpedoes. Like you've been seeing Runic do. in the background video of this match, and you should probably be watching Mr. Mayhem, our resident Australian's footage. In the back. Oh, hold up, I gotta fix that real quick. There we go. Sorry, I had to translate it out of Australian. But yeah, anyway, like you can see, the Torpedoes are really solid. They're putting in a lot of work in these matches, more so than the Elbing Torpedoes would because of the longer reload and the slower time there. So, guys, let me know what you guys think about the Hoffman if you're planning on picking her up. If you have picked her up, what do you think about her? Do you think she's worth it? Do you think it's worth waiting on? Let us know all that good stuff in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful, what's today? A wonderful Wednesday, wonderful rest of your week. I hope to catch you guys in the next one.